Western political leaders were unified in condemning Vladimir Putin's regime for illegally invading its neighbor in February 2022. Since then, Kyiv has received unprecedented military support to help it repel the Russian invaders, even though Ukraine is not a member of NATO. And, earlier in the summer, Rishi Sunak and Joe Biden stressed their unwavering support for Ukraine, with the president saying the U.S. will help Kyiv for as long as it takes. The two leaders emphasized the need for long-term security arrangements for the war-torn nation as deterrence against aggression from Russian President Vladimir Putin. However, questions are now being asked about whether or not this stance is in the best interests of Britain, the United States and other NATO members. Especially given the huge financial cost of providing this support, during the aftermath of the COVID pandemic and amid a domestic cost of living crisis. During a joint press conference with Sunak at the White House back in June, Biden was asked about hesitation about more funding for Ukraine among some lawmakers in the Republican Party. The sitting POTUS said, "I believe we'll have the funding necessary to support Ukraine as long as it takes." And I believe that that support will be real, even though you hear some voices today on Capitol Hill about whether or not we should continue to support Ukraine and for how long we should support them, Biden added. The UK's Prime Minister was unequivocal in his support. Sunak said, "I agree with what the President has said, it's about deterrence." President Putin will be thinking that he can wait us out, that the alliance will tire, will get fatigued and will give up. Now, that is not the case, and the more we can put in place support for Ukraine, not just in the here and now, but support that will last for a time and for years to come, I think it sends a strong signal to him that there is no point in trying to wait us out, we're not going anywhere. We will be here for as long as it takes. Back in January, a poll of Daily Express readers found that most wanted the UK to give more support to Ukraine to end the war quicker. However, that was 8 months ago and, with Russia digging in, the war shows no sign of ending anytime soon. Some analysts now believe that, as the war grinds on, continuing to write checks for Ukraine may longer be in the West's best interests. And a recent CNN poll shows that most Americans oppose Congress authorizing additional funding to support Ukraine. Sean Bell, a former RAF Air Vice Marshal and Ministry of Defense (MOD) staffer, suggests that the war has weakened Russia to such an extent that it no longer poses a credible threat to Europe. Given this, Bell argues that the Western objective of this conflict has been achieved. Writing for Sky, Bell said, "Having achieved their strategic objective, Western democratic governments must also address the cost of living crisis, domestic priorities, and rebuilding national weapons inventories." Ukraine, however, has not yet met its objective, which is to liberate its territory. Bell writes, "The harsh reality is that Ukraine's objectives are no longer aligned with their backers. Many Ukrainians will remain determined to expel all Russians from their territory. That is Ukraine's right, their fight, their future, and their sacrifice. The ensuing sacrifices, devastation and suffering will leave a dreadful legacy. But what is the price for peace? Many Ukrainians will remain determined to expel all Russians from their territory. That is Ukraine's right, their fight, their future, and their sacrifice. The ensuing sacrifices, devastation and suffering will leave a dreadful legacy. But what is the price for peace?